To Ariel Petty. You remember? She's like, okay, I don't even know how scary. It would be 9.6. And I was telling him, I was like, what you don't understand is like 90% of doctors would put you on this thing right now. Yes. Excuse me.
And guys, don't worry, this is my first time moderating the panel, so you're gonna be better than me, so it's fine.
And I can grab a mic for a hot second.
Yeah.
And then I'll just get us started here.
Yeah. I think I'll live in the chat. Pop in my three uncles. My dad could it's basically it. Left my dad in Jersey, so I brought my three uncles.
I'm your young.
You know,
I'm sliding.
I brought my three cousins.
Uncle that's younger than you. Dad had a kid early.
Yeah. I
Young.
mean, kids early is definitely how it is in my family. Oh, these mics.
You guys know how to count on the bottom of your mic? Thank you, Steve.
One, two.
Up is on. Yeah, the grain.
Yep. That's the 1, 2.
Would you prefer that we unmute until we talk? Or?
It's up here. I mean,
Okay.
Oh, let me turn that one down.
And we should be looking
Yeah.
looking at the iPad, right? Not the computer. Out to the audience. Okay.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. A little,
Let me turn you up.
a little bit.
One more time.
Check. 1, 2. 1, 2.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. So thank you guys all again for coming to another day of Touch Talks Wellness. Today we have an amazing Men's Health Day Man in the Mirror panel. It's going to be a great conversation. I've heard many of these men speak before. I'm really excited to hear what they have to say and have a great conversation about men's health. So here we go, guys.
Thank you so much, Haley, and good morning, everyone. My name is Derek Smith, and professionally, I am the Executive Director of Development at National Medical Fellowships. It's an 80-year-old healthcare workforce nonprofit that's working to increase representation within the healthcare workforce. You can find out more about us at nmfonline.org. But today I'm serving as moderator for this panel. It's a privilege to be here today with Touch BBCA for an important conversation about men's health. Generally, conversations about health start when things go wrong. But today we're looking to flip the script. Health is actually about not just responding to illness, but it's about prevention. It's about having access to the right information and resources. It's about mental and emotional well-being. It's about creating a culture where men feel empowered and safe to ask questions and to seek care, to play an active role in their health. Today, we have an outstanding panelist who each bring a different perspective on the experience, perspective and experience to this conversation. Over the course of the conversation, we'll candidly talk about some of the health challenges facing men today. What's keeping them from seeking the care they need? And most importantly, what can they do differently? My hope is that everyone leaves today with not only greater awareness, but something practical they can take home to their families, to their friends, and to their communities. Now, before I start with the questions, I'd love the panelists to briefly introduce themselves, their name, where they're from, what they do. And then from there, we'll start a conversation.
My name is Joseph Butts. I am from New Jersey. I work in the mental health field and also fortunate to work in the administration side of things as well. So what does that mean is that I have a well-versed opportunity, let's say, to work with the medical doctors along with patients who are in the mental health side. And it's great when I'm able to help people understand the importance not only of mental health, but how it also plays a role in their health. Because a lot of times people think it's separate, but it is not. They play off of each other. And if we don't realize that, we can be missing a huge aspect of our health overall. So that's one thing that I do. And then outside of that, I'm actually in the process of writing my own book to help bring awareness to men's health and just the stigma that is created around men and what we're expected to do and how that adds to the stress and anxiety. So just giving men a place to kind of be themselves and just relax and just be free.
How's everybody doing? My name is Dr. Khalid Alston. I am a naturopathic physician. I practice out in Portland, Oregon. My medical practice is medical supervised weight loss, and I do a smattering of primary care. Really quickly, for those of you who are not familiar with naturopathic medicine, is a specialty where we are specifically trained in natural therapies. So I can give you, St. John's wort, which is an herb for mental health. I can give you berberine, which is a nutraceutical herb for blood sugar control. I can also give you your lisinopril and your atorvastatin for your blood pressure, for your cholesterol. So I can do the entire scope of practice. That is what I do out in Portland, Oregon. I also have a health tech company where we help people and patients specifically remember what happened at their medical appointments. And so folks are now able to go into their doctor's appointments. They can press record on an app on their phone, and they leave with a comprehensive breakdown of what happened that they can translate into multiple languages and share with friends and family without touching the paper on the chart. And so I'm super happy to be here and excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Larry Young. I am from Boston, and I am the founder of Forever Young Wellness, as well as the owner of Under One Roof Fitness Center. What I do day to day is I work with individuals, I work with small groups, and I work to help individuals through boot camps. A number of years ago, I realized that being a personal trainer meant more than rep counts and meal plans. When I'm working with people and they're under stresses, a lot of things begin to come out. I begin to realize that the mental health component really needed someone like myself and those that are in the physical fitness arena. So what I have been doing with my work is I offer Awareness Month events, diabetes, breast cancer, prostate awareness, And I offer a safe space for men where we can get together and talk about things, especially how if you're not taking care of yourself, what that's going to lead to. And I'm, as well as lead, I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for those introductions. So I want to start the conversation off at a very broad macro level. So let's talk about, Black men and their health. There are a lot of cultural and social biases and stereotypes that impact men day to day, individually and as a group. Share with me from your own perspectives how these stereotypes and biases, social expectations of us are impacting men and their health.
So I'll start off, one of the things that I run into when patients come in, they feel that if there's not a person of color, they're not going to be treated correctly. So they don't even come in, which to me, I say is that it really hurts them, because even if you go in and you find out what's going on with you, you still have a voice. So you can still retreat, you can still say no to the service, and then say, okay, I'm gonna find someone else that I do feel comfortable with that's gonna help me. Because at least now you know what's going on. And a lot of times we don't do that. We have that stigma of, well, if I go in there, they're gonna make me do this. They're gonna make me do, because they're not African American. They don't know how I feel. They don't know what I'm going through. So they won't really understand it. And then the other part is, again, looking at where I'm at, a lot of times people don't want to come because their friends or family members might see them leaving out, and it's like, oh, why were you there? What's going on? What's happening? And as men, we don't want people to know our stuff. We want to keep that quiet. We want to keep that to ourselves and let maybe one or two other people know, but we want to be in control of who knows and who doesn't know. So they hesitate, they pause, they don't do it. And unfortunately, our health does not stop. It keeps going. So the situation gets worse and worse. So that's what I think really happens there.
Would you just repeat it again for me, please? The question.
There are a lot of, social and cultural biases and stereotypes about men, and Black men specifically in particular. How do you see these, and I can get into detail, Black men as the strong alpha male, the provider, the one who's supposed to just muscle through, the protector. How are, seeking for help and asking questions and seeking for help in your healthcare lifestyle? We're not expected to actually do that because it can be seen as a sign of weakness. How is this, broad spread social expectation and stereotype of us impacting our health?
You somewhat answered it with you.
Yeah.
In my work, so it happened organically during my conversations with men. So as I'm working with men, and I have actually, ironically, it's called Alpha Fit. I do an Alpha Fit program for men. And even with the naming the sessions that I do with men, because men have unrealistic expectations, especially Black men, placed upon them, there's certain things that you have to really be aware of. So in my world, I can't tell a man that we're having a class, because to a lot of men, they don't take classes. So I call them sessions, right? When I named the event Alpha Fit, more men came to it. Because to your point, men want to feel that they don't want to feel, men feel like they have to meet unrealistic expectations, right? And when you start to do those sorts of things, you have these unrealistic expectations and you embrace it, you then start to do things that are really out of character. You neglect yourself, you start to think about, as Joe stated, I'm not going to the doctor because I can take care of myself. It's all good, right? I don't want people to know that there's anything wrong with me because I'm the provider. I'm the strong one. I get it done. No matter what, I get it done. And when you have that type of mentality, what I'm learning is that the neglect sets in, and then you continue to march down that road, which leads you to neglecting yourself, and that impacts your health overall.
Yeah, I think, and this is why what Ricky's doing with this group is so amazing, is I think about it a lot with regards to the top of the funnel. If you think about a sales thing, in that, how do we get more men into the office? How do we get more men to see a doctor? And it comes down to, one, acknowledging that those stereotypes are real, but also from an organization, from an administration, from a clinical standpoint, looking beyond those and actually going out into communities and actually speaking to Black men, speaking to communities of color and saying, hey, come to the doctor, come to our office. We are a safe, welcoming space. And there are things that you can do to save your life or live longer. And studies actually show that when people reach out to Black communities and offer them care, that Black people are oftentimes more likely to follow through with instructions, actually take care of themselves and other people. Right, and so it's less of an issue about Black people don't want XYZ, it's more that it is not offered to us in the same way. And then when it comes to just like the stereotypes or just the way men act in visits, a lot of times as a provider, I have to take a step back and speak to men differently than I would women, right? Because men come into the office, they're often brought into the office by their wife, or they're sent to the office by their wife, and they sit in front of you and they're like, there's nothing wrong with me. And I'm like, bro, you're 60 years old, you're 55 years old, you haven't been to the doctor for 15 years. I don't believe that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna get some labs. I'll honor your belief that there's nothing wrong with you. And then when the labs come back and you are inevitably pre-diabetic or you have high cholesterol, then I have a different leverage point with which I can have that conversation with you. You know, and so again, it starts at that top in terms of how do we get people in the office? And then once they're there, how do we speak to them in a culturally and, you know, culturally respectful way?
And I agree with you there, because you do have to change you have to talk different. Because when African Americans come into, or people of color, whether it's male or female, but particularly males, when they come in and I'm sitting across from them, I do talk to them differently. It's a total different flow, it's a different feel, because they relate better then. It's almost like when a man sits down, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Talk to me. And I just smile, just talk to me. And it's like they pause and a little bit of like, comes out, and then it's like, okay. And then they tell you a little bit, and then I say, come on, let's go. And then I'll just tell them, I say, hey, listen, let's give you an example of my story, my life. And maybe this can be helpful. And then it lets them know that, oh, okay, we can relate. Oh, okay, yeah, I can talk to them. This is a safe place. Because you have to make that connection. And you can't be looking at the clock. If the person's health is more important, then sometimes you're just gonna have to let the clock tick. And you can't sit there, and especially in my line of work when it comes to mental health, I have to put the clock away sometimes, because it's about the patient feeling comfortable. It's about them feeling accepted and willing and open to share. Because if they're not, after today, they're not gonna come back. You know, so it's very important to slow down and speak their language, say.
That's actually, my next question is almost a natural follow-up to the conversation that we're having here. So Black men have the lowest average life expectancy in the United States, and it's between 69 and 72 years of age. We've begun kind of this conversation, but I want to know more. What are other things that we can be doing to help adjust that. And what I specifically mean is you've demonstrated to us or shared with us that Black men are not seeking the healthcare that they need. Joe, you share that, you know, our health does not stop. I love that. And so it's almost like an exacerbation of conditions over our lifetimes because we feel like we are not able to seek help. It may be impacting us in terms of our life expectancy. So from your other perspective, you shared some, but I'd love to hear more. What are some things that we can do or put out into the world to encourage Black men to have a more active role in their healthcare? Individually, what can we do as a community? What can we do as families to make sure that everyone is seeking the care that they need?
I would say encouragement. And when I say encouragement, what I'm talking about is you look at the way we started out. We said that you know, Black men we hold things in. Men in general hold things in. Black men more than others, based on the unrealistic expectations that have been placed upon us. So with that being said, when I'll just briefly go through a scenario, walk you through scenarios. When you're younger, you're out, you're hanging with your partners, your boys, you're down in the park, and you're running around, playing basketball, you're into sports, you're doing everything. And then somebody comes through the park, catches your eyesight, right? Now it becomes the apple of your eye. Fast forward, you get serious. You get real serious. You then get married. You then have children. You then start to adopt that stereotype, right? The unrealistic expectation. When you do that, you then start to isolate yourself. You don't hang the way you used to. You're not out exercising the way you used to. You didn't look at it as exercise. It was just hanging out with your partners and your boys, and you were just out there. But you were getting exercise without even realizing that, right? You then start to take these things on. Now you're isolated. You become isolated, and then when you're isolated, you start to girth. We know that when you girth, that's the birthing ground for disease, right? So how do you get out of that vicious cycle? It takes encouragement, it takes support, it takes your family, your friends to reach out to you and say, honey, I haven't seen you doing this lately. Calling on each other, right? Calling on each other as men, no man left behind, right? Khalid, I haven't heard from you in a minute, brother. What are we doing? Let's get together, right? And those sorts of things begin to break that down. And I'm saying it from experience because as a former athlete, or I'm still active, but former baller and all that, right? I reached back to those that I grew up with that are sedentary. Come in, make it welcoming for them. I encourage them to come in. And you can see a shift. It's like, I can't believe that I let myself get to this point. And I just been providing. I just been on the grind, right? And those things impact our health. So I feel that it's encouragement, whether it be from your family, or as we have these types of discussions as men, you know, we take it to heart and go back and look out to those fellas that we used to run with and say, what are we doing? Let's do something about this.
No, I love all that. First thing I gotta address is former baller, huh? A little bit. Were you good? A little bit. It's a strong statement.
It's okay.
Yeah. Like, no,
We can check it out.
let's do it. I was telling my brother the other day that I retired because I'm scared of tearing my Achilles. No, I think this is a nuanced topic, right? And I actually am rather optimistic because, and being on this island is really interesting and is the perfect way to juxtapose and like look at the complexity because we're looking at a multi-generational issue and an issue that's multi-generational is also layered by socioeconomics. You know, and the reality is that the experience of all of our parents is very different than the experience that we have and the healthcare resources that we have access to on the stage, which is different than the resources that my children and our grandchildren can have access to. And so when we talk about Black men and Black communities having low healthcare outcomes, right? I see a few different demographics walking to my office. I see the 60 to 70-year-old individual who's been type 2 diabetic for the last 20 years on 16 different medications. And it's extraordinarily frustrating because I know that if they had a good doctor back in the day, if they had somebody who actually sat down, spoke to them about lifestyle, spoke to them about diet, actually taught them a few things, they would not be on these medications. They would not be in the situation, they would not be on insulin, they would not be XYZ. And then I have individuals who are my generation who will come in and are actually rather active and engaged in their healthcare. And they're very aware of things that their parents or their grandparents, their aunts and uncles are going through. And they actually express a lot of fear to me about like, I don't want to become diabetic like my father, my aunt, my uncle. And the thing that I tell them, which I reassure them, is the fact that they are in a medical appointment somewhere between 27 years old and 40 and like 40, 44. And that is years before, and you have access to something, you're talking to a Black doctor, you have resources that your parents did not have, right? So the likelihood of you having those same complications is significantly lower. And then we have the younger generation who again is growing up more and more where Black doctors are still too far and few between, but it is more commonplace, you know? So again, I think there is cause for optimism, while also acknowledging that we have to step out and support our older generation who now has access to doctors and medical providers like us that they did not have access to objectively 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I would add that, you know, from a different perspective, why that rate is so high. Because when you look at it, when you look at the statistics, right, for African-American men, the reason why they're dying, well, one of the reasons, one of the highest cause is heart disease. And if we break it down, why do we have heart disease? We have heart disease because of high blood pressure. We have high blood pressure because we're having a lot of stress, anxiety, worry. We're eating not healthy, okay? Now this high blood pressure and the stress, well, let's just look at the stress, right? The stress now starts to add what we call residual fat. Now we're carrying this extra fat around and it's sitting on our organs, it's clogging up our arteries. So therefore, it's causing it to even, our heart to work even harder now. And no one is really sitting down and saying, listen, I'm just being real. Like if I'm sitting across the table from somebody that I work with across the table, they're coming in, I'm just gonna tell them straight up like this, listen. Yeah, you may be living in a rough neighborhood where you have to run home and you're under a lot of stress and anxiety because you're afraid you're gonna get shot or you're afraid that the gang is gonna catch up to you or you're gonna get robbed. Listen, let me just tell you, that's real. I'm not saying that it's not. And I grew up in that type of environment. What's also real is your health. And if you're not aware of how African Americans are dying, then you're going to be walking around with a big blind spot for the rest of your life. Now you understand. Now let's look at how we can help prevent that because it is preventable. Right? If you're eating certain foods, just think about it. If the food you're eating, just look it up. If it's causing, if it's an inflammation or inflammation, right? If it causes inflammation, don't eat it. Because you already know your body's gonna start to swell up, it's gonna cause your body to work harder. Look at eating a lot of anti-inflammatory foods. It's gonna be light on your body and you're gonna be better, right? Because you can't just eat, and especially with this time of day, there's so much that they're putting in the food just to pump it out, so that way people can have food and they can make all the money they can make. So we have to be mindful of that as well, and letting them know that, listen, there's other resources that you can plug into to help your health improve. But this is the starting point. You need to know these things. And sometimes for me, it comes down where it is something mental, where they are dealing with anxiety, they are dealing with depression, they are dealing with the loneliness, they are dealing with being afraid to come outside, right? And then you're able to help them mentally be at a place where they can settle, and then plugging them in to other resources like my brothers over here, where now they can feel safe and say, oh, I could go here. Oh, I can do this now. Oh, okay, I can start reversing some of these issues that I've been dealing with.
Eric, Joe just mentioned something that, from my perspective, I don't want it to just go in one ear and out another, because it is extremely important. And he mentioned visceral fat. And in my line of work, that's what I really pay attention to. So for those of you who may not be aware of it, after this, I would encourage you to look into what exactly is visceral fat and identify what your visceral fat number is, right? Because visceral fat is a fat that loves your organs, and that fat that loves your organs leads to disease, long-term illness. So it's not just about losing weight, it's the proper way in which you lose weight. And I'm certain that my brother here, I keep calling on him as he does medical weight loss, I'm certain that he focuses in on that as well. And that is definitely something that we need to pay attention to, especially as Black and brown people.
Sure. If we, so quickly, an analogy or way I like to explain visceral fat to folks is, if you can think of your body like a bathtub, right? And we all have had a bathtub or seen a bathtub overflow, right? When a bathtub overflows, it's dangerous for the house. Why? Not only because your floor gets wet, but the water can start to leak down into the floorboards, can break up pipes, can cause a lot of damage underneath the surface because the water has to go somewhere, right? And so all of us have a different fat threshold, or a fat bathtub, or a reservoir for fat. And so as you gain weight, your weight goes up, you fill up your bathtub, and at a certain point, that fat or that adipose tissue starts to overflow, and that overflow starts to go in and around your organs, right? And so that's the overflow that doesn't go around your liver, which is called fatty liver disease. It'll go around your kidneys, it'll go around your blood vessels, it'll go everywhere where it's not supposed to go. And when you have fat, and fat is a hormonally active compound, right? That fat is going to make your body, make your organs, make your engine work worse. And so as these guys are talking about, you want to be very aware of your visceral fat. This is also where like culturally competent medical care comes in, right? Because people of color have different body types. There is adipose tissue fat that goes around your thighs and your legs that is not as metabolically active or as dangerous for you as the adipose tissue that is around your abdomen or around your organs. Right? And Black women have thicker hips, they have larger buttocks. And if we go based off of the BMIs that are set by middle-aged white men from 50 plus years ago, then we'll think that we are overweight and obese, when in actuality, we are just voluptuous and beautiful. But we have a different body size and different body type than what the standard medical institution has been built off of, which is based off middle-aged white men.
I agree with you there. And then I'll let you go.
Yeah, keep going.
Because I had a colleague once tell me when we were doing some research, he told me, he says, listen, Joe, to be honest with you, back then, they would say even the whites, the blacks were white. So we were not included in the studies. They didn't want black rats in the study. No, it's true. It's true. I mean, like when he told me that, I said, "Oh my goodness, are you serious?" They did not think about brown skinned people in their studies. So we're recently now starting to be included in these different studies, but before it was not. So yeah, and then in terms of this the Bristol fact, I would also encourage you, even if you think like, oh yeah, I'm real slim, I'm good, still get it checked. Because there's a lot of people who are slim fat, right? You look slim, but when you get on that scale and you start looking at those numbers, the doctors tell you, hey, listen, this is what we need to work on here, right? So I think that's helpful.
I know I'm supposed to be moderating this panel, but I actually want to just participate and share a little bit as well. It's something Dr. Khalid said that really had me reflecting. I've had the privilege of being raised by a single father, a man who looks just like me, or I look just like him. we're essentially twins, and we definitely have 25 years between us. But it was about, conversations and sharing. I think, right now, what is in vogue is everyone being an entrepreneur. We're working on intergenerational wealth, but I'd love to, share a bit and, hear a bit as well and participate in intergenerational health. So I saw my father work very, very hard to raise us as kids. And he's in his late 60s now, doesn't look it, and he's probably furious with me that I shared that. But as he gets older, my sister and I are really focused on asking questions, making sure that he goes to the doctor, because, we pass so much on to our children. We all know, you can have sickle cell trait, we track that. But what are the other things that our parents are experiencing as they age that we should be aware of? And what are the things that, as you develop and grow as a parent and a caretaker of your kids, especially as men, that you should be sure to share and pass down. My dad's at the age now where, prostate screening is important. And he's blessed to have a son like me who is very comfortable with talking about the male body and being there with him and his appointments. But it's not something which all men have. And so I just wanted to share that, we're very focused on intergenerational wealth and wealth creation, but we'd be remiss to not share about intergenerational health. We map our family tree, but let's talk about the diseases or other things associated with our family that come along with us. I just wanted to share that. And if anyone else has points, happy to have you continue as well.
Yeah, I have one there. So this is one of the things that I'm actually writing in my book. Is the stigma. I really want to break the stigma that has been set for years in and out of the African American community. So let me give you an example. One that has been in, at least around my African American family, right, is you should be the breadwinner. You should make more money than your wife. So growing up, that made sense to me. But at some point, I said, wait a minute, Joe. Makes zero sense. Think for a second. If you tell your son this, that means that let's say your son's gonna start dating at 16, 18, right? And you tell your son this. He starts dating, let's say he starts dating, he sees some money, he's 22. That means that he's gonna have to go up to that young lady and say, what do you do? Oh, you're in school to be a doctor? Oh, I can't date you. Because I'm in school to be a teacher, so I can't date you. That makes zero sense. Mm-hmm. However, I understand the heart of it, which is don't just sit back and do nothing in your house, right? Look to contribute, look to do what you can do to provide. and don't just sit there and, like a lump on the log. But when you say that statement, or you should be the breadwinner, and you leave it like that, you're now setting up, again, I work in mental health. Now you're setting up your child to walk around with this anxiety or this depression when they're not doing it. Like they have this anxiety of, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. What if I don't do it? What if I don't do it? Then I'm not a man, then I'm not this, then I'm not that, then I'm not this, then I'm not that. You are a man. You were born a man. Period. Right? Or you're gonna you have them depressed, like, oh my gosh, my wife makes more money than me. Oh my goodness. I must be a loser. I can't do anything. I can't. Oh, because I'm not living up to the expectation of being the correct. No. Your wife just makes more money than you.
Yeah.
So what? You're married. Suck it up. It's all one, right? Stop competing with you. See, it's those stigmas that we hold in the African American community, and we don't talk about those things. We don't talk about just what I said, competing with our wives, right? How many times do a lot of, I don't know, but there's some African American people that come into my office and they tell me, these are females that come in and they tell me these things. Oh, my boyfriend, he doesn't want me to do this. Oh, my husband doesn't want me to do this. And it's like, why would they compete with you when you're one? You're together. Or if you're dating, you're supposed to be looking to be one together. Why compete? Just drop the competition. You don't have to be the man.
Yeah.
You're still the man. You can still be the man in many other ways. You don't have to be, all in all, because and if you are, then that's great, right? But you don't walk around like, we just add a lot of pressure.
On the topic of what you were saying, that's a great point. I'm a big believer in patient advocacy and patient empowerment. And especially in today's world when the medical appointments are so short and you only have but a few minutes with your provider, a lot of that onus falls on you as the caregiver or as the patient, unfortunately. And when you talk about intergenerational health and understanding that, one thing that came to mind is, and we were talking about this in the last talk that we were giving, is the tool set that you as your father's son and my generation has in these AI tools, right? And a fun experience, not fun, but a fun, worthwhile experience might be hopping on to Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT and asking it specifically what you were saying, like intergenerational health. What are all of the things that I and my sister should know about my mother, my father, our lineage, how far back should we go? Should we ask about heart disease, about prostate cancer, about breast cancer? What are the various things that we should know? Having AI give you a document, a roadmap, a set of questions, and then sitting down as a family and saying, hey, dad, hey, mom, if we know our mom or whatever that might look like, what are these answers? Okay, so there's a big gap in this heart disease category because I was adopted or because our family does not know this. What is our heart disease risk? We don't know. Maybe we need to go do this. Or you know what? My mother, she went through menopause at 37 years old. So sister, what that means is that you might start to experience symptoms a lot younger than some of your peers, right? And that's how we can start to bridge that gap between what is not happening at the doctor's appointment, because that objectively should. I should be doing that with my patients, but I don't have time. And now the tools and the technology that are available to us, we can close that gap and we can have accurate, medically sound advice and tools in our disposal in our home for free, because we're paying for it off, different line with like our environment, all that's a different conversation. But These tools are available for us and they're not going away. So how can we leverage them for the health of ourselves and family?
I really, really appreciate that question. And I appreciate the way that you prefaced it and talked about how you communicate and have conversations with your dad. And it takes me back to an answer that I gave earlier, and that was support and encouragement. Because we can always say what someone should do, right? But if you don't know what they went through, then it becomes challenging for that person to listen to what you're telling them to do. When I think about people who are a bit older than me, they've had experiences with health disparities that we have not had, right? They went through things where they were misled. They were, especially Black and brown people. They were the guinea pigs, right? So there's a level of fear that people have when it comes to healthcare and healthcare providers because of their experiences. In order to understand things, I'm a big why person, and I'll use the analogy when you study the Bible, it's very different when you understand what was happening during that particular time. If you just try to read the Bible with your understanding, it becomes very challenging. So you have to understand what was going on during that time, and this is why folks did what they did. And so when you equate that or match that with the way in which we are today, I think that gives us a bit more insight, and it empowers us to help our parents, our children, so that we can teach them things so that they don't miss out on that little thing. What was my experience? That's why I do what I do. So I really do appreciate the way in which you frame that, and you guys for your answers as well.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with what you're saying in terms of using AI. And I'll tell you why. Because the demographic that I serve, a lot of them, if they were to go to their parents, and no, if they were to go to their parents, first of all, would be like, get out of my face, I don't care. Because they're out in the street. So a lot of times, kids may not have access to really sit down and talk to their parents and say, hey, mom, hey, if they know the dad. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, it's going to be, hey, mom, can you tell me about dad and his health? I don't know about his health. I don't even know. I don't even talk to him no more. Okay, well, can't find that part out. Can you tell me a little bit about your health? I don't know. I'm adopted. Or mama, she in jail. I don't know. I can't ask her. Why you want to know these questions anyway? And all the kid wants to do is just better him or herself and not go down the same path that the parents are going down. So having that extra resource where they can pull in and plug into to at least start the process to be on a better term is great.
At the start of the panel before we went live, I jokingly said, you know, this is going to be a great conversation. It's like a chat with my uncles and cousins, my much younger uncle, as I was corrected. And so I also share, you know, but candid conversations I have with my father. And so I do want to come through that spirit in terms of the conversation with uncle and cousins about, you know, my next question, which could seem very personal and very individual, but it has an impact on the family and interpersonally. And as men, you know, and I actually feel like our responses will actually be a great resource for others who may not have a father or a male figure in the home to have solutions or answers to questions like this as they age. And it's about, erectile dysfunction and performance. It's way more common than you may think. And it impacts you individually, but also your relationship. Let's talk about it. Let's have, what are some of the myths and stereotypes associated with ED? What do we want people to know about it? From a male perspective and also from a partner perspective as well.
Well, I would say this here, when it comes to ED, one of the things that we don't realize as a African American culture is that it's preventable, right? Yes, we're going to age. I need to say that nice and clear. We are going to age. Our body is not going to function the way it does at 60 that it did when it was at 20, okay? That's just natural. However, there are factors that speed that up, okay? So if I'm talking to one of my children and they're asking me this question, I'm going to tell them, make sure, first of all, you're exercising. And not just, listen, okay, ladies, you're happily just be walking across the room as we're having this conversation, okay? So I'm just gonna be,
Yes,
we're
here.
This is gentlemen here, right? And you guys just walking across the room and you happen to overhear the conversation, okay? So I'm just gonna tell them, listen, exercise, however, don't just exercise your upper body. Do leg exercises, okay? Because it's about blood flow. If you don't have blood flow, you're gonna have a problem. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
Okay? And a lot of times when you see the brothers in the gym, they want the upper chest, boy, they want the arms, they want the chest popping out, and they don't ever work out the lower legs, period. Okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, I would tell them, which we already talked about, is check your visceral fat, my friend. I don't care how skinny you look, how good you look. If that is high, it's going to catch up with you and it is going to impact you. It's going to cause inflammation in your body. Inflammation is going to cause your veins to shut down. Your veins start to shut down. You have no blood flow. So let's work on that, okay? And in the last part, I would say mental. Yeah, mental, okay? Now again, ladies, you're just walking across the room, okay? So I'm gonna tell them, listen, man, mentally, first of all, don't be having a bunch of stress, okay? Because that's gonna affect you. And thirdly, well, the other part would be, don't be so mentally stimulated that you can't physically get stimulated. See, these are the talks that most people probably don't want to have. They just want to say, hey, go to the doctor, find a great doctor that's going to help you, that's going to relate to you. Yeah, all of those things are absolutely correct. But this is something that you can actually start right at your house. You can go through your fridge, see what you're eating that's causing inflammation potentially, right? Are you gonna have a perfect diet? No. But if your whole diet consists of foods that cause that, then we have a problem eventually. You can ask yourself, do you work out? Do you actually get up every day and do a moderate exercise when you're sweating and you're working your lower body, your blood flow? Do you do that? Yes or no? Simple. You don't need the doctor to tell you you're doing it or you're not doing that, right? Mentally, where are you? That you can answer yourself, right? Are you mentally stimulated more than you should be, my friend? Because if you are, there we go. We have to really just be honest with, I think, ourselves and our family. Then we can really go through what we need to go through to find a good doctor. Because sometimes we may not find that great doctor right away, but at least we understand some things and we're like, no, I really need to get this taken care of. I need to get this checked, worked out, and work through it, man.
Love all that. It's the lower body. It's a great tip. I'm an optimist, and so this might sound a little funny, but erectile dysfunction is great. You know, it is a gateway to get a man into the doctor's appointment.
I love that.
What we care about.
Fix it.
And, yeah, there's more women in the crowd than men right now. And so again, like to give you guys some insight into the way the male brain thinks. This is a conversation I literally had with my 7-year-old a few weeks ago as he was like, he got hit in the testicles or he was doing something reckless. And I was like, hey, you need to protect your penis. It is the most important thing on your body. And he's like, oh, what about my brain? If my brain doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I can't fully explain it to you right now, but your penis is the most important thing to you as a man, right? And so women, like if you are with an individual who is aging, who is going through some stuff, like a real leverage point could be, hey, babe, like your penis is not working the way it has in the past, or hey, I would like to have intercourse with you and I can't do that the way I would like to. You should go to the doctor to talk about something to help you. And I can guarantee you that is going to be a lot more motivating for that man to go see a doctor than you saying, I don't want you to die from a heart attack. Because we're like, you know, but if our penis stops working, we will go to the doctor. And the reality is that when your penis stops working, when you have erectile dysfunction, what that is an early warning sign of cardiovascular disease, of atherosclerosis, of things going wrong with your body, right? Uncontrolled diabetes. You have very small blood vessels that lead to your penis that become engorged that allow you to have an erection. When your erection is not getting up or not staying up as long, it's because you have an issue with blood flow, whether it's because you have been inactive, whether you have high diabetes, which causes your blood to become more less viscous and not flow as well, whether you have plaque buildup, which is blocking the blood flow to your penis. It could be 1,000 reasons. But the most important thing is the person goes to the doctor. I see it all the time. People come to me because like, hey doc, my penis does not work. And I'm like, sorry that's happening. We'll talk about everything else that's going on in your life. Let's talk about your stress. Let's talk about your exercise. You haven't had labs in 15 years. Let's get you some labs. Let's see what's going on. And we can get your penis working. We can give you some natural things. I can throw you some Cialis. I can do all these things to get you to be functional, but now you're in the office. And also, again, like this trick that doctors do is I'm going to give you a 3 to 6 month refill at most, because guess what? You're going to come back when you run out of your Cialis because you want your penis to work. And that's when I can say, hey, you haven't changed your diet. You have not lost weight. You're not taking your blood pressure medication ran out 3 months ago. Your Cialis just ran out. Now you're coming in. Your blood pressure is uncontrolled because you have not been taking your blood pressure medication. So no, I'm not going to keep refilling your Cialis unless we get your other health factors under control, right? And so I think that's how we want to think about ED as a leverage point that we can use to get fellas, or that motivates fellas to go to the doctor, because in our perspective, it is the most important thing.
I love
it. He's like, what do I say?
This is one of those times where you got to pause and just let it go. Let it go. Next.
Yeah. I mean, like we're kind of casually running out of questions. So like, you know, if there's, what else would you like to share, you know, with the audience? Like what have I not asked you that you want to share that we should be aware of? Oh, actually, I think we have a special guest. No?
We just come up.
Yes. Ricky.
You know I have to,
Yes.
so I'm just gonna come forward. This is so great. You guys are so awesome.
And it actually works very well with
2
the
seconds.
topic we were just having, right?
So I actually want to talk about prostate cancer, a little bit what you did. You know, Black men are 1.7 times more likely to get it. And it does cause, ED at some point, right? And twice gonna die. So that's something that you can, it's a simple blood test to a blood test, that's it, to identify. So I think the earlier you detect it, the better. But the one thing I wanted to bring up, I put some data before you guys, and I just wanted to bring this up as a topic. Approximately 55% of Black men are not married. 51% have never been married. And then for women, for Black women, it's 63%. So what's up with that? I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, if that makes a difference in health, because I do believe, I'm trying to not block you, that a lot of women bring their men to the doctors, or obviously what you just said. Maybe they're not married, but they still, whatever that interaction is, bring them to the doctor. Do you have any idea about, I'm just curious.
Can you give me those stats one more time?
Yeah, so basically 55% of Black men in the US are unmarried or unpartnered. And for women, it's 63 to 67%. The other interesting number was that 70% of Black moms are single moms. So they are having sex, right? But they're not married. Just curious. I mean, you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of things that, I should say, there's a lot of people that I meet on a regular basis, and a lot of that I met. And one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of young people, they would just rather shack. Let me just be honest.
Yeah.
Right? Because they feel like, hey, I'm free. I don't have to worry about anything. I can leave the relationship at any time. There's no ties. And my money is my money, his money is his money. And if we decide to share, we share. Great. If we decide not, we don't. And there's no pressure on any of us. However, what happens is they wind up leaving, right? Separating. And then they date someone else, and it's the same mentality. So it's just a repeated cycle that just keeps going on until someone actually breaks that cycle and says, hey, listen, why don't you marry? Right? Not saying you have to get married, but why don't you marry? And start to ask those type of questions to really find out what is the mentality of not only women, but men too. Right? It's not only the ladies, like the men can sit down there and say, all right, you know what, I'm gonna propose to them. This is gonna be my wife, instead of this is gonna be wifey.
I love that.
Because, yeah, right? Because when we have wifey, guess what? Wifey may not bring us into the doctor.
Yeah.
Wifey may say, oh, husband thing don't work. I'm going to another person because I'm not tied into this relationship. I can leave this relationship. I'm not married to you. I'm out. And it just keeps repeating the cycle where men don't go in because there's no one telling them go in. And the lady just keeps repeating the same cycle. And we just have a generation that continues to grow up without knowing what it feels like to have mom and dad in the house together.
Doesn't it seem like erectile dysfunction, it's better to have it with a long-term partner than with someone that doesn't necessarily really care about you in the long term? Isn't it easier to deal with, right? Because someone loves you and is committed to you.
Yeah.
I think that's I would totally agree with that. And I'd like to go back to your statistics. So in the work that I do, individuals come in, and when you're exercising and your hormones are involved, right, you're releasing stress, a lot of times that's where people want to talk. And they will talk about things. Oftentimes people come in to see me and we're supposed to work out, they'll warm up, they never exercise, we're just talking. I think those statistics, what's tied into those statistics is all those numbers are high. I don't believe that people want want to be a part of those numbers.
Hmm.
So we have people that are single, but they don't necessarily want to be single. It's not by choice. They don't want to be single. In conversations that I have, oftentimes what I'm hearing is, I'd rather be alone than to deal with that. There was a saying long ago where they said men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And nowadays, when you think about communication, what's communication like? When I met my wife, it was old school, right? We went out, we went to movies, we went to the mall, right? We did things where we were interacting, we were communicating. When I would pick her up, I turned the radio off so that we could talk. So I got to know her. But now you have, and I'm saying this from what people have shared with me, that you have, for example, a young lady will say, they'll talk with their girlfriends about a man and what a man wants. When you want to know what a man wants, you should talk to a man. And the same thing for the other sex, the opposite sex. Men talk with each other about her, she, them, versus having conversations with a woman to understand her perspective, right? And I think that once we get that piece together, we start to communicate more, those numbers might be impacted just a little bit. And to your point, I agree with the erectile dysfunction. If you're in anything that you're going through, whether that be breast cancer or anything like that, if you have someone that understands you and they're in it with you, they'll be in it with you. So.
I think you're just sharing, I think those statistics go back to the point I raised in terms of intergenerational health, right? And something which you shared, if there's not a complete family and there's not someone to share your health legacy with you, it's a compounding and exacerbating condition and status or situation across our country.
Yeah, even, I'll be real, okay? Share a little bit of my own personal story, okay? So I've been dealing with things that I never realized. And it was like, oh, wait, hold on. Why am I wrestling with this? This is probably something that I was something that has been in my family. And when you realize it, it kind of takes some of the pressure off of you when you realize, oh, okay, wait a minute. Whew. Okay. This isn't me. This is something that has been going on in my family. Got it. And sometimes we don't see that, but we'll see the wealth. We'll see that. We'll see the house that great-great-grandfather left us. We'll see the trust fund that, mom and dad put together for us, right? We'll see those things and we'll be able to explore those things. But we never really sit down in our house and say, okay, what are some things that are kind of like I'm fighting, dealing with? And we all have them. That has been something that maybe my mom or my dad had dealt with too. And this is something that is like family, been kind of like passed on. And maybe it's up to me to break that. So that way my kids don't have to deal with this. Because now I can educate them and say, hey, listen, let me just tell you.
Yeah.
And this is some of the things that I've done to overcome that. So, I think that that's a key.
All right, Haley's, my boss is giving me the high sign. So one more quick question, just 2 seconds. Cigar smoking is such a thing. I'm not gonna name any names or anything, but it's such a thing. And I'm looking on the Vineyard here, everybody, to me, it's like, you're killing yourselves. And I don't know is it psychological? Is it just I guess it's like smoking 40 years ago. but it's like a death trap. So help me with this. Like, well, how do I get men to stop doing that? At the Q house. Sorry, Qs.
No, someone who doesn't smoke cigars, it's hard for me to relate. I guess the one positive that I can see is that.
It brings you to the doctor.
No. Often, you're my office.
Yes.
The one positive I can see about cigar smoke is that it is less habitual and more communal. And so unless you are just like running a cigar bar, you're not gonna smoke it as much. And I also say that with the caveat saying that I don't know the data about cigar fillings and the carcinogenic properties of that versus tobacco and versus other things. Why do men love it? Men are simple creatures. We just like to.
Women are doing it too.
Yeah.
To
Are
get,
they?
yeah, because they want to meet the men at the cigar bars
Someone goes to
Yeah.
Interesting. Why?
to find the men.
I guess so.
You don't have to use your phone.
Yeah.
Well, I'm unqualified for this answer.
I'm also a non-smoker, and I've had this conversation in my community. And I believe that the tobacco industry has used the age-old marketing strategy, and that is to make something look cool. And I believe that's what it is.
Mm.
When cigarettes hit the scene years ago, my father, who passed away from lung cancer, and shared with me that said, I did it to myself. I did this to myself. And the marketing strategy was to target, and that day was inner city.
Mhm.
They would give away free cigarettes, and everybody thought it was really cool. I look at it now as a non-smoker, and a lot of my friends, they're always at cigar bars, everything that with cigar, the whole stigma that goes with it. And I'll take it a step further. Nowadays, in addition to the cigars, vaping is a
Vaping.
craze for young people. And you look at the marketing throughout the entire tobacco industry has been the same. Make it cool, make it cool, make it cool, create an image. And then people overlook the health disparity that comes with that, the health challenges that comes with it, because you're looking at it as it's harmless, because it's advertised as harmless and it's social. So how do we stop that? I don't know. But I believe where it begins is somehow there has to be some counter marketing that impacts people the same way as the marketing that hasn't been.
So I would answer that question this way. Because I like educating patients. So I really thought about that. I don't smoke cigars, I don't smoke weed, but I know people who do. So one of the things that I come to find out, people do that because it helps them relax. So I say, okay, so that helps you relax. Relax from what? Stress. Stress from work, the anxiety of tomorrow, I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that. It just helps me calm down and I unwind, I relax. I say, okay, that's great. Do you understand that that's a chemical? Yeah, I understand it's a chemical. Great. Do you understand that there are psychiatrists that can also provide you with chemicals? That at least that one is monitored. It's regulated versus cigars, it may not be. The weed, it may not be. The vaping may not be. So now you're under more stress and you're taking more, you're vaping more, you're doing more weed, and you don't even realize it. But at least if you're going to a psychiatrist, they can tell you, hey, have you ever thought about therapy? to help you with your anxiety, your stress, your worry, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be a psychiatrist. It can be somewhere else where they can provide you with natural resources or other chemicals, but it's still regulated because you're taking the chemical anyway. You're taking it anyway. Like, because some people are like, oh, I don't want to take the medication from a psychiatrist. They just gonna make me mad it all up and I'll be all doped up walking across the street. Well, okay, you're taking a chemical anyway. So why not take one from someone that is regulating it, who's monitoring it, and at least they can talk to you about it and maybe offer other resources to help you with your anxiety, your stress. Or it's cool. Why is it cool? Because I fit in. People like me. Oh, okay. That sounds like you might have a self-esteem issue. Or you might be feeling depressed and you want to hang out with your friends. So let's talk about that. So I would always say it comes back down to some type of mentality, some type of mental education that people really need to be look at and understand. And then they'll start to question the things they do. They'll start to be like, I'm not doing that.
I think that's the perfect way to end. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having this conversation with us today.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
You guys are awesome. So cool.
Yeah,